If I told you that in 1994, in the Eastern Conference Finals of the Knicks versus the Bulls, that I snuck into Madison Square Garden, would you believe me?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Have a good day.
Thank you.
I'm vaccinated, so don't worry. Good. All right.
I'm face down on the floor. Dopey, please sir, can I have some more? Dopey, said Dopey.
In my imagination, people snuck into Knick games back in the day, and I grew up right down the street. You can see the buildings I grew up in down there. And we lived in the shadow of Madison Square Garden. Those red buildings is where I grew up. And fucking my dream was to be like an old-time New York City person and break into Madison Square Garden. And I had some experience working in TV, so I had an idea. And my idea was to use my white privilege and my TV-ness to get into Madison Square Garden. So I'm going to take you on the tour that me and DK went on that year, that day, almost 20 years ago. What is it, 17, 16 years ago? Come on. That was pre-heroin addiction, Dave. So my vision was to find where rich people had box seats. Because I had never had box seats, but I assumed they let white rich people into box seats in Madison Square Garden, and it shouldn't be that hard to do. So I'll show you the spot. Right now it's like post-COVID, and homelessness and drug addiction and crazy people in the streets is totally on the rise. I was just getting a smoothie and some dude almost killed me because I looked him in the eye, but I thought I should look people in the eye. See, Mark Messier, the great Patrick Ewing, I will be a Knick and I will always be a New Yorker. They just kicked him out of the Garden. You know that story? Sad. Billy Joel. Me and Linda went to see Billy Joel for a Valentine's Day show. He was drunk as shit. Total disaster. The Piano Man. Can I ask you a question really quick, sir? Fuck, it's not gonna work. I was walking by before. I saw you eating some nice chicken and listening to some nice reggae music.
You smell that shit? We just get that shit in Brooklyn. Yeah.
What was the spot?
Fisherman Grove.
Ah, very nice.
Good jerk chicken. One love. Peace up.
Yes, I respect.
We can make some money. Respect.
Have a good day, you guys. Yeah, I love reggae music. I'm with the DK. DK is very like wholesome Midwesterner, and I say to the DK, I'm gonna talk some New York City rich guy to this guy, and we're gonna get in. And I said, my dad is sitting down by the floor, but he forgot to give me the ticket, so I need to go meet him. I don't know how I thought this would work. And the guy's like, your dad isn't there, get the fuck out of here. And I was like, okay. So we started moving. How you guys doing?
Good.
All right. I took Dave and I took him to the place and I knocked on the trailer door and they opened up the trailer and me and Dave had to have been 18 or something. And they were like, what can we do for you? And I was like, I'm an intern for NBC Sports and I've lost my credential and so has my friend. And they said, oh, really? And I said, yes. And they said, well, who do you work for? And I knew one person. Uh-oh. I said to the guy, we are interns at NBC Sports. We're really late. We were totally stoned out of our heads, too. So we're stoned, and we're really late for the game because we had watched, this is something I should have said before, we had watched the first half at my father's house. And then we decided at halftime we would come here to try to watch the second half. I think that's an important detail. Maybe we'll reshoot that in the front. Maybe not. Who cares? Knock on the door. He says, what are you doing here? I said, lost the credential. He said, well, you're very late. I said, well, you know, it happens. He said, well, who do you work for? Because he didn't believe that I was an intern at NBC Sports, which, of course, I wasn't. So I said I knew one person, and it was Dick Ebersol, who was running NBC Sports at the time. And he said, go fuck yourself, and he sent me away. So me and Dave, crestfallen, kind of like, Christmas time is here, all depressed. We walked, and I was like, you know, let's just go home and get stoned and watch the end of the game at my dad's house. You know, I longed for those days of watching the Knicks at my dad's house, getting stoned and chilling and whatever. You ever snuck into a sports game? Have you ever tried? No. Do you want to hear the story of how I snuck into Madison Square Garden during the Knicks-Bulls finals in 1994? All right, come here. Come here. All right, just go. Just go. Just see it on YouTube. Fuck it. So, you're intrigued, though. Aren't you intrigued? There you go. That's a real New Yorker right there. Sir, let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question really fast? Have you ever snuck into a sporting event?
No.
Have you ever considered trying to sneak into a sporting event?
It's just not the real me.
Did you have any friends who ever snuck into sporting events?
Possibly, but my friends also were typically not that sort.
If
Our interest was just not that great.
Where did you grow up?
New York City,
Where?
the Bronx.
Ah. You never tried to sneak into Yankee Stadium?
I grew up almost in the shadow of Yankee Stadium, and I was a big fan, and I knew all the batting averages. But in those days, what did it cost? $1.75 in the grandstand. It was. I didn't need to sneak in order to attend a ball game.
See, I imagine in my mind that every man older than 60 from the Bronx who grew up near Yankee Stadium snuck into Yankee Stadium, or wanted to, or tried to. That would be my imagination of the whole thing. That was a nice, mild-mannered New Yorker. We're dealing with a lot of interesting people today, if nothing else, right? Again, straight ahead is my childhood home. Safety, frozen pizza, marijuana, a clean bong, and the Knicks on Madison Square Garden network. Over here, the unknown, rejection, failure. The clock is ticking. Tick, 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 tick. We will run out of time. Halftime will end. Then will we miss the Knick game just to be trying to sneak in and tell some story on YouTube 16 years later? We didn't know. Anyway, I had decided, fuck it. Let's go home. And we start walking. Probably right here is where we said, fuck it. And we start walking. And we're like, well, that was fun. That was a stupid story we could tell people one day. And we probably got right here. And I stopped. And I see here. Now, there weren't glass doors back then. Back then, there were storm doors. And I'll show you what storm doors look like. But one of these doors, you see, back then also, the doors had no handles. They were black metal steel doors. And one of them was open like this much. And I went, Dave. And he went, what? I went, do you see that? And he said, what? And I said, come on. And we walk over there, and I get down, and I pull open the door, and we sneak in. And, like, the story could have ended there. But when we sneak in, we're not in Madison Square Garden. We're in the Paramount Theater. And it was really crazy, because when we sneak in, all of a sudden there's fucking calypso music playing, there's steel drums going, and there's a bunch of really, really nice looking black people dressed to the nines in suits, because it was like the Caribbean Calypso Festival at the Paramount. And Dave was like, I don't think we're at the Knick game. And I said, I don't think we're at the Knick game either, but the trick is that we're someplace where we're not supposed to be. That is what counts. And we are in the building. So let's find someone who will help us. And I know who will help us. The person that will help you in the fucking Paramount Theater on a Sunday afternoon in the fucking Caribbean Calypso Festival right by Madison Square Garden is a stoner kid who works the fucking fries, who's just standing there doing nothing, bored, wanting the day to end. And I know that if I was that kid and I went up to him and told him that we snuck in, that I would want to help him. So me and DK get on the line, and we go up to the kid, and I said, kid, we snuck in here, but we're trying to get to the Knicks game. Can you please help us? And he was like, and he waved us through. He waves us through the kitchen, right? Behind the counter. Imagine that. He waved some guy with his little hat and his little fucking Paramount vest and name tag, brings us like Goodfellas through the kitchen, through the back, and takes us out the other side. And now we're in Madison Square Garden, standing in front of the Madison Square Garden Brass Bar, or whatever it was called, the Silver Club, the Brass Club, wherever the rich people went to drink. That's where we went. It's crazy. And I was like, holy shit, we're in Madison Square Garden. But if you know anything about Madison Square Garden, you don't just go from there to the floor. Because those are the best seats. Those are the floor seats. We didn't have tickets. We didn't know what we were doing. So we go to the escalators. And again, if you go to Madison Square Garden, there's escalators that go like that. We go on the escalator. We went up 2 flights of stairs, and I was naive. And I get off with DK, and I say to DK, all right, let's go. And we go to the usher, and I said, and the usher goes, tickets. And I'm like, holy shit, we've come this far and it's over? And I said, and at that point, I don't know what the ushers are like at Madison Square Garden now. Back then, every usher was probably 75 years old, had white hair, and was an Irish dude from the Bronx, like that guy. You know, except they probably snuck in. So I said to the guy, my dad has the tickets. And he goes, well, where's your dad? I was like, he's sitting in the stand. I looked at the thing. He's like, he's sitting at 201. He goes, nope. He goes, I saw your father. He's in the 8th floor. And I went, huh? And then I understood. DK didn't understand any of it. And we started going upstairs, and DK's like, what happened? I was like, shh. And we go to the 8th floor. There's no one there. We walk in. We go down to the last seat in the last row. Upper deck. Seats are sitting there. We take a seat, and we watch the game. And the fucking Bulls won. And DK was from Illinois. But that was the story. That's how we won. That's how we did it. Knicks lost. We won. And I think it's a classic tale for Knicks playoffs time, right? If you like this, click like and subscribe and all that shit you're supposed to do on YouTube. And stay strong, Dopey Nation, and fucking toodles for Chris.